Next, we have our government segment. That's my segment, Nick Barber. I'm your host for that one. I'll be interviewing Frank Duci. Always a pleasure to see Frank Duci, our former mayor of Schenectady. He's had decades of experience in local government as a legislator, a mayor, and a city councilman. So let's watch this interview with Frank Duci. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Impact. I'm Nick Barber, your host for the government segment. Today's guest is no stranger to those in Schenectady and beyond. Frank Duci. Frank is the former mayor of the City of Schenectady. He also has been a public servant on the county board and other responsibilities over the years. He's still active. He still does a TV show on Open Stage Media, Frankly Speaking, and he's no stranger to us. Welcome, Frank.
Well, thank you, Nick. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. Okay, so you were mayor for how many years, Frank?
I was mayor for 16 years.
Right.
I was a county legislator for 12 years.
Right.
A city councilman for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And a second ward leader for 10 years.
Yes.
I was elected every 2 years.
So you have a wealth and a long, lengthy career in public service on local issues, which is good because that's where it's important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks to the good Lord and the people who voted for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You made a lot of friends. And you still have them. They still come to you. And
oh, yeah, they're beautiful. I love people.
They still give you their opinions and ask your opinion, and you're still involved.
Yes.
Frank, you know, times are different. When you were mayor, budgets were different, the economy was different, but you know, looking at your advice and your experience as mayor when you served, what advice would you give today's public officials, and what would you do differently, you know, in the operation of local government?
Well, as I've been saying for a long, long time, is once you're elected, you got to forget that you're a Republican or a Democrat, and you work as a legislator, working together.
Yes.
And when you work together, you're more productive.
Well, that's what you're elected to do, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And you have to, you know, spend less. You know, in Schenectady, there's a population, a major population of low and middle income people.
Yes.
They can't afford these increases in taxes. And you have to do everything possible to take in and initiate the kind of programs that's going to provide that kind of you know, service for the people.
Yes.
And that hasn't been happening. Well, for instance, the last 4 years that we were at, 92 through 95, in 92 the budget was 43 million. In 95 when I left, it was 43 million.
Mm-hmm.
We spent less than budgeted, we borrowed less, and we put in a lot of economy in the budget.
So there were no increases in 3 or 4 years in a row.
That's that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with that, you could either lower the tax rate or not raise taxes, or give the taxpayers more services for their money, if you would.
Exactly right.
Well, of course, the economy's different now too. Schenectady and the capital region, we're not unique. That we're all, you know, pressed, you know, with money and budgetary constraints. What are some of the solutions, like volunteerism or more state aid or government aid? What are some of the things besides we could spend less?
Yeah,
you know, I think that's probably what your main issue is. Yeah. Don't spend, you know, more than you have, like your household budget, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And you know, when you stop to think about it, the average people, as I said, in Schenectady are low and middle income people.
Yes.
And they're paying away. They're taxpayers. They're paying away. And you have to find a way to provide some economy that will rub off on those taxes, you know, and that hasn't happened. And as I said before, you have to spend less and do, for instance, they got cars they used to have, I think they're beginning to cut them back, cars for every Tom, Dick, and Harry, you know, and, you know.
Government vehicles, you mean the employees.
Yeah, you have to do, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's areas of economy. That's what you have to promote.
Yes.
You know?
Well, Schenectady's always been a working class town. I mean, we have a rich history of General Electric. You worked for General Electric, didn't you?
39 years.
39 years with GE.
Yeah.
And it was a working class city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In those days, Nick, when I worked there, they had around 25,000 employees.
Wow.
Now they got about 2,500 employees.
2,500, yeah.
And that's sad. That's really sad.
Well,
And it's too bad. I tried to get the president of the General Electric Company when I was mayor on a part-time basis and still working at GE. And I asked him to please, don't tear down the buildings. Let the city of Schenectady and the county work together and use these buildings, to enhance the economy.
Yes.
Get in new business and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I couldn't convince them.
Couldn't convince them.
They just tore down the buildings.
Yeah, they demolished a lot of buildings. Well, manufacturing's gone down. I don't know if it's the contracts or global competition.
Right, that could be.
Companies want to go where labor's cheaper.
That's right.
It's cheaper to operate.
Right.
Taxes are lower.
Right.
Percentage of unionizations,
Right.
unions,
Right.
all of those things add up. But we made some comebacks in small manufacturing, but you're never going to be replace 100%
No.
that manufacturing situation that we had in GE with all those employees. I see they have a new battery division that was in the paper that GE announced. So
they got, I guess,
hopefully
about 100 new employees.
Yeah, 100,
Yeah.
If we
That's
could
a good start.
If we could just make that 10,
Right.
20, 50 times that, eventually. But
That's what you need.
But who knows?
No,
Maybe
that's
we
right.
will.
That's right.
GE was a good community citizen, though. They were always giving back to the community and trying to support the community. But we were pretty much a one-horse town. We had Alco.
Right.
I was over at the Alco Museum,
Right.
the new Alco Museum in Maxim Road recently.
That's right.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't
On
been.
Maxim
I
Road?
haven't
Yeah,
been,
go in and see the tank, the Sherman tank.
I didn't go over and take a look at that yet. No.
Yeah, that's something to see. I was there on
Yeah.
Father's Day.
Yeah.
But things like that are good too. Tourism's important.
Oh,
I remember that when you were mayor, you stressed tourism.
That's right.
Yeah. We had the Mohawk River, we have the Stockade, we have a beautiful, unique area of the Mohawk Valley.
And one of the things in that category is that I invited 3 people that I knew in Mississippi who dealt with riverboat gambling.
Yes.
They came to the city of Schenectady. They looked over the river. They checked the height of the bridges to the surface of the water.
Yes.
And we were going to take and initiate riverboat gambling.
Yes.
We had lunch over at Angelo Massone's restaurant,
Uh-huh.
and Angelo was delighted to hear that there was going to be riverboat gambling.
Yes.
But to make a long story short, all of a sudden we could not get the support from the state of New York to put it in.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that was too bad, because that riverboat gambling would have been terrific, not only to attract tourism and enhance the economy, in Schenectady, but it would be a plus factor for the people, the tax-wise,
Yes.
because you'd be generating a lot of new revenue.
Like Saratoga Raceway
Sure.
and
Yeah.
other places that have that kind of revenue.
Yeah,
It's funny,
Saratoga.
the state's approving casino gambling all over down in the Borscht Belt, down in
Right.
the Catskills and Sullivan County and so
Right.
forth, because it's a big economic shot in the arm
Right.
for those depressed counties.
And
So,
people are going to gamble. I mean, you try to encourage the people not to gamble that much, because you really can't afford it. But gambling has always been something that the people enjoy doing, I guess.
Well, it's recreational.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as long as it's not harmful to
overdo
to
it.
them personally,
Yeah.
and
Right.
just like anything else, drinking alcohol is legal, but
Right.
if you abuse it, it's terribly harmful and
Exactly
destructive.
right.
Well, gambling could be the same way. So,
Exactly right.
but people always want that recreation. They go up to the
Right.
racino, they pull those machines,
Oh,
just
yeah.
keep throwing
Yeah.
their quarters and
That's right.
dollars in. They just love it. You had a lot of innovative programs when you were mayor.
Yeah.
You worked well with the neighborhoods. Today, the neighborhoods have problems. The neighborhoods are declining. There's
Oh, yeah.
security
know.
issues, and there's more absentee landlords and tenants.
Well, working
For example, on the north side where you grew up
Yeah.
and I grew up, it's almost over 50% renters now.
Right. Right.
And years ago, they were all owner-occupied properties, and their families
Exactly.
lived there, and they rented out their 2 families to their family or
Got it.
others. But it was more owner-occupied
Right.
residents that took pride in their neighborhood. Now, I'm
yeah.
not saying people have to rent. Of course they
Right.
do. They can't afford a home. But sometimes we have problem tenants,
Well, the sad
And,
part of it, Nick, is we used to have about 100 and I think it was 40,000 people that lived in the city of Schenectady.
Yeah.
You know, we're down now to, I think it's what, 55,000 or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's truly sad, you know.
So we're a shrinking city then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember the good old days, you know, when they had the trolley. You go downtown with a trolley, and downtown would be booming,
Yeah.
you know, with business.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And that went on for a good many years.
Yes.
And then gradually it started tapering off, you know,
Yeah.
going downhill. you
Well,
know.
downtown's turned around quite a bit, but it's
Yeah.
not the old downtown
No.
that we experienced before.
No.
You know, the Thursday nights with the bustling streets and
Right,
all the stores
right.
and businesses, everyone's succeeding. We went through a period where it became a land of plywood. I mean, downtown was in severe economic decline
Right.
in Schenectady. But I know Metroplex is one of your favorite subjects, you know.
That's right.
But Metroplex was developed to try to develop the economy, the local economy, especially Schenectady, with sales tax money, 0.5% of the sales tax.
Yeah.
But you've had your opinions on Metroplex. Maybe you want to talk about them. What do you
Well,
think about?
you know-
What do you think about that development money
Yeah.
from our sales tax money?
Well, I'll start out by saying that early in 1995, I had suggested that we adopt a 1% sales tax and use that revenue to offset the costs of sewer, water, and street repair, and a little bit toward the public safety.
Yes.
And the benefactors would be the taxpayers, because they would not be paying for that through their taxes.
Yes.
Rather, the revenue from the 1% sales tax would be paying for that.
Yes.
And I was called all kind of names, and they turned me down. I still have the articles
Yes.
at home, and they wouldn't approve it.
Yes.
I get out of office, and in '96, or the first part of '97, they proposed this Metroplex, and I went to the public hearing,
Yes.
and they allowed me to speak for a few minutes.
Yes.
And I pointed out the importance of generating this revenue, you know, to offset the cost of real property tax for the poor people in the city of Schenectady. And I pointed out a lot of reasons why we should do it. And again, they turned their back. You know, taxpayers cannot afford to subsidize the private sector business. The taxpayers do patronize the private sector business. And if it wasn't for the taxpayers, the people patronizing the business would not be making the profits.
So
You
you're
see what I
saying
mean?
they're already contributing
They're
through their
already
sales
contributing.
tax, their purchases and the
Exactly.
sales tax revenue. Why should they contribute again as
Exactly.
individual taxpayers?
Exactly. It isn't fair.
Yeah.
That money should be used to offset the cost of much needed neighborhood improvements. Every single neighborhood is going downhill because they have not been putting the kind of money in there that the neighborhood deserves.
Yeah.
That money should be used to help the people in every single neighborhood.
Well, I know the neighborhoods need attention, and people are trying to focus on that. The parks, there's no money. I was happy to hear, as a North Side resident,
Right.
that Steinmetz Park is going to, I mean, for years they've been talking about allocating money, got money from the Parks and Recreation, but nothing ever happened.
No.
You know, we kept saying this money's coming, this money's coming. We kept lobbying our county legislators and the city officials, like, when are you going to disperse this money for the parks? And when is Steinmetz Park going to get its share?
Right.
So they've made some announcements, and I hope
Yeah.
that it becomes a reality. We actually see something happen there.
Right.
But I know a lot of our other parks are suffering because of lack of funds.
Right. Right.
If the kids don't have any place to go, what do they
Right.
do?
That's right.
That's why parks are important too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The swimming pools.
Oh, yeah, the swimming pools. You need an outlet for young children, you know.
Yeah.
And as oftentimes I talk about the fact that 95% of our kids are great kids in this country,
Yes.
but you only read about the 5% that are getting in trouble.
Yes.
And we need to do something, get our leaders
Yes.
to help this 5% of the kids that do have some problems
Right.
and help turn them around.
Yeah.
You know, because they could be great kids, you know,
Yes.
and we should try to help them.
Yes.
And that's a project that, again,
Yeah.
you know, if you had some of the revenue that you could use, you know, from the sales tax, initiate some programs
Yeah.
and get some leaders
Yeah.
working with this 5% of the young
Yeah.
people. You wouldn't have the problems we have in the
It's
city.
true. You know, proof of that is, it's no secret, the Kiwanis Club, not only in Schenectady, but throughout
Right.
the country. It's a great organization. You
Right.
and I are members of the Kiwanis Club
That's
in
right.
Schenectady. And Kiwanis is about children.
Right.
And about the future.
That's right.
And I know our Kiwanis Club gives many scholarships
Oh,
out.
yeah. That's
And
right.
Service Club gives money to youth programs.
Exactly.
And it makes a difference. You see them come to lunch, these kids that came from inner city
Right.
that had nothing.
Right.
They came up with maybe not even parental guidance. They live
Right.
with the grandparent or one parent.
That's right.
But when they get that incentive and motivation, they get a little help.
Exactly
Whether
right.
it's summer camp or a program.
That's right.
Wow. You got
Makes
some
a
real
difference.
minds, real talent out
You're
there.
darn right.
So it's an investment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what we have to do is invest in our young people. And you can do it in many different ways, you know, providing the leadership, provide the money and all the services that you could provide for them. And in the end, you know, the benefactor is going to be the community in this country.
Absolutely. You know, you've always been a leader of that by example.
Oh, yeah.
We're visiting with Frank Duci, the former mayor of Schenectady, long-term public official. He was on the county board. He was a city council person, a ward leader, and now as a private citizen, he's still very involved in the community. Frank, if you have any parting words, what advice would you give to the public officials and the city officials or local government officials in general today? What would you tell them?
I'd say number one, remember you've been elected by the people. They are your bosses. Forget about the politics. You're a legislator. Legislate those things that are going to benefit the people, your bosses, and the community. You know, and you know, we talked about Metroplex, and there's other programs as well.
Yes.
That you could talk about to use this revenue.
Yes.
And when you do that, in the end, you know, not only will the city be the benefactor, but the people themselves will be the benefactor because they'll be paying less taxes. Their children would be, you know, real sharp and provide a lot, make a lot of positive input in the community, which is a plus.
So thanks for being on Impact. We hope you come back again. Frank
thank
Duci,
you.
former mayor of Schenectady. That's it for today's Impact Show. We'll see you next time. I'm Nick Barber, your host. Thanks for watching.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.